Today we'll be going over an injury prevention warm-up for women's all-around gymnastics. We're going to start with the order of treatment. So first we're going to do some self-releases, then we're going to do some flexibility, mobility, proprioception, strength, and plyometrics, which is also encompassing our cardiovascular fitness. So we're going to start off with some self-releases using the foam roller. This is going to help reduce some of the trigger points that are found within the muscles that are stopping us from getting full range of motion and flexibility during gymnastics. And at the same time, it's going to help increase circulation in these areas. So we're going to start off with the erector spinae muscles. And we're going to roll all the way up. We'll do this for 30 seconds or until a release is felt. If certain trigger points are felt, we can also just stay on that spot. Next, we're going to work on glute max. So we can either do one glute at a time or both. So if one is too intense, we can start off with both at the same time. If not, we're going to put more of our weight on one. And this will be done also for 30 seconds or until a release is felt. We can also stay on certain trigger points. Next, we're going to work on the hamstrings. So same thing, we can work on one leg, but if this is too intense, we can start off on 2 legs. Then we're going to go on to our gastrocs. Same thing, we can work on one side or both at the same time. And finally, we're going to work on our TFL, IT band, and glute med. So we can stay on the trigger points that we find, or we can roll all the way through. We'll also want to release the quads before starting our flexibility portion. So we can do, once again, both at the same time, or one at a time for more intensity. And we can stay on the trigger points if ever there are. Once all the trigger points are released, we're ready to move on to our flexibility. So for gymnastics, hamstring flexibility is extremely important, and getting this in an eccentric fashion is important to reduce strains of the hamstring muscle. So we're going to start off with some crouched toe touches. So we're going to do 10 of these. So it's a very active, dynamic, eccentric way to get that quad flexibility. And at the same time in gymnastics, we're often in the tuck position as well. So this will go and get both of these positions that are often done in gymnastics. Next, what we're going to do is some splits. So in gymnastics, doing the splits is extremely common and important for the sport. So we're going to start by holding 1 minute on each side. That's my bad one. And then we're going to do 1 minute horizontally as well, which I cannot do. Next, we're going to take the ball and do some lat dorsi stretching. So this is going to be done dynamically as well. We're going to start in the center, and then we're going to walk as far as we possibly can until we feel the lat stretch. We can hold 3 seconds and then on to the other side. And we're going to do this for a total of 1 minute. Same thing for the splits. We're going to do 1 minute per split. And finally, we're going to get an erector spinae stretch, doing a roll at the same time, since the tuck is a very common position and we need to get the flexibility of the erector spinae going. We're going to do this for 1 minute as well. After flexibility, we're going to go ahead and work on mobility of the spine, the shoulders, the wrists, and the ankles, since these are very important for gymnastics. So we're going to start off by doing some cat-cows using breathing. So we're going to come on all fours, inhale into cow, exhale into cat. We're going to do 10 reps of these with the breathing as well. After that, we're going to go ahead and do some shoulder mobility, since this is extremely important for gymnastics on the bars. So we're going to go into shoulder flexion with our hands hip width apart, and then we're going to bring this up, hold 3 seconds, and come back down. We're going to do this 10 times. After that, we're gonna go ahead and work on our bridges for our spinal mobility. So the bridge and the back handspring, front handspring, all need great amounts of spinal mobility into extension. So we're gonna start off by doing a 2-leg bridge for 30 seconds. And then we're gonna move on to one leg and the other leg, 30 seconds each. And last but not least, we're gonna work on our ankle mobility. So we're gonna do 8 on each leg. I wanna be on an elevated surface because in gymnastics, oftentimes we need hyperdorsiflexion. So we need to really eccentrically stretch that Achilles tendon in order to prevent some injuries to the Achilles. So we're gonna just pretend there's a wall in front of me. My knee has to go ahead and hit the wall. And I'm also on a slightly elevated surface, like I said, to get that extra amount of dorsiflexion, which is required in gymnastics. Another important mobility exercise is for the wrists in gymnastics. There's always a lot of impact on the wrists during floor exercise, vault, beam, bars, basically on every apparatus. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stretch actively our extensors and get some more mobility in our wrists. Then we're gonna go into our flexion. We're gonna do this for 1 minute in total. Then we're also gonna bring our hands in. This is required a lot for vault and for floor exercise. And lastly, we're gonna bring our fingers outwards. This is good for the balance beam because your hands are often in this position here. So we're gonna gain mobility by swinging side to side. For balance and proprioception in gymnastics, what we're gonna do are, with our eyes closed, arabesques on each leg. So we're gonna start off with, we're gonna do 10 on each side. Now we're gonna work on some strengthening exercises. So we're gonna start off with getting the core engaged before engaging any of the other muscles. So we're gonna start off with some bird dogs in a plank position. And then we're gonna lift opposite arm and leg. We're gonna do this 10 times on each side. After that, we're gonna go ahead and do some inchworms. And we're gonna do this for the whole floor exercise size 1 time. And then continue all the way till the end. Next, we're gonna work on our gluteus medius strength. So we're gonna do some standing fire hydrants with the TheraBand around above our knees. So we're just gonna go here and open in different angles since gymnastics requires multi-directional angles. So we're gonna do 8 on each leg. This also works balance at the same time and is also working on the opposite gluteus at the same time as the one that is working with the TheraBand. This one is working to stabilize. And finally, what we're gonna do is something that's a little more sport specific and will help with our shoulder and upper body strength. So we're gonna do a handstand for 30 seconds. We can do it on the wall or without assistance if we don't need. So we're just gonna hold here. Of course, for the final portion of the warm-up will be plyometrics and cardiovascular fitness. The reason for this is because we wanna get the heart rate up and the muscles warm before going on to rehearsing the routines. So first we're gonna start by doing forward jumps onto and off of the block. We wanna go as high as we possibly can since height is extremely important in gymnastics. We're gonna do this 6 times. I can't go very high because of the ceiling here, but you would technically go as high as you can go. Next, we're gonna go on to jumping over the block since jumping with a distance is also important in gymnastics for certain leaps and jumps. So we're gonna jump over, forward 5 times. Next, we're gonna jump laterally 5 times on each side. And finally, we're gonna jump backwards 5 times as well. And we're gonna finish off with some 100-meter sprints. This is important for vault and floor exercise since in gymnastics, there's always a short, very intense, quick sprint right before doing acrobatics.